Yeah. Okay, different spaces, all the daily. I've been plotting on my first Mercedes. Am I imitating what they be showing me? All these desires, I can't deny it. They got a hold on me, talking retirement, 401k that they do with me. Is it true? At least American scheme to slaughter your dreams, beheaded your king just off the principle. Should be spiritual for its physical. Take that literal, mistakes be critical when intentions they made pivotal. I know I'm cynical, cycles repeating, started minuscule, but now it's out of hand. Part of their plan to take the land, and now it's typical to conquer control the souls of those who fought for their freedom. They laying low, cause they know it's like an uphill battle. I chose the latter though, slowly rose, expansion and growth. That's how it's gotta go. Lonely road, but one that I roam with a glowing smile. Curious child of God, I've been flying for miles. High above, like a rainbow colored dove. All I know is love, and you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even high above. Like a rainbow colored dove, all I know is love. And you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even though it's rough. Following light as it glows. But where is your soul gonna go? After you dead, all the ashes in the bed you've been laying there, saying it was the devil, but it's fire you playing with. Paper shit been too common in childhoods, the trauma be prominent all in our hoods, and now to do it, all this influence and shit gotta forget who they really did. These children be having kids, but too selfish to help them live, and that's how it is when you was taught that your worth is hard, and now with that you are here to put food for thought on the menu. Niggas starving, I can tell from all the bullshit y'all involved in. Regardless, I'm finna have some fun deep in this garden, solving all my problems by planting seeds of green to help me breathe, retrieve parts of me that mean the most. It don't matter if I'm on the Ivory Coast or posted up on the block surrounded by city smoke. I'm the same me, blissfully free. Ain't bring ID, cause this body won't mean shit with my time down here complete. High above, like a rainbow colored dove, all I know is love. And you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even though it's rough. Like a rainbow colored dove, all I know is love. And you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even high above. Like a rainbow colored dove, all I know is love. And you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even high above. Like a rainbow colored dove, all I know is love. And you can say I'm like the plug, cause they know it's up. It ain't never too much for them to notice us. We be shining like a diamond, even though it's rough. Following light as it glows. But where is your soul gonna go? What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Dave B. You watching Dave B on TV, where we go beyond the everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And we break it down. The new moon in Scorpio. It is here. I believe we at 11 degrees. That's where the moon is currently. So, you know what I'm saying? For the most part, I put in the title, it's a death of a outdated mentality. So let's understand the words in the title. When we look at mentality, this is thoughts and feelings, you know what I'm saying? Even though most people just refer to their mental as, you know, what they're thinking about, but also you need to understand the relationship between thoughts and feelings. You know, where you think is the space you're creating, and within that space is fulfilled with your reaction to whatever it is that you have. So when you're thinking about, okay, outdated, you know, outdated means, again, it's things that no longer apply to your current situation. So when we look at the energy of Scorpio, we got to understand, we're talking about fixated emotions is part of that mentality. So, you know, the effects that Scorpio can have is that, you know, you develop grudges, you develop what I call emotional biases based upon previous things that you went through that might have caused trauma, might have caused trust issues, might have caused you to have to do certain things at an extreme level based upon needing to survive. You know what I'm saying? That's the baseline of it. You know, all spirits and bodies, right? The human aspect of humans, right?
He said he got my picture on the wall. Oh hell nah. But anyway, the human aspect of the part of human nature is survival mode. When we talk about human nature, what is actual human nature? Human nature is all the things that are associated after the spirit had created the body and vessel, right? So you are a spirit in a body. So you as a spirit in a body, before you came through your parents, right, you developed an idea based upon the space you was in, right? In that space you fulfilled it, and what you fulfilled it with, that's what all spirits do. That's the number one thing. It's exactly what God did. That's why they say man is created in God's image, because God is no thing, but it's all possibilities. And when we look at things like the Bible and stuff, which you could look at for very good ideas and concepts to help you develop better ways to go about life, right? And when I say that, the Bible, I mean, if you're reading it for what it is, not again, whatever organized religion you in, you got to understand that that's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about concepts. The Bible is a book of it basically light explaining itself. So, or light being observed, basically. So when you look at what God did in Genesis, nothing became something, and then there was light. This is what the essential aspect of you as a reflection or image of God, right? You created man in God's image. So think of your spirit as that creator aspect, right? So, and don't get confused what I'm saying, because I know I'm throwing a lot of advanced things and very early on in my lives. I know a lot of new people come in, trolls come in, and all that. So don't get my words confused with what I'm actually saying. But I'm gonna do my best to explain it in a way that you can comprehend. And then as you follow along, we'll develop better ways to go about it. And if you got questions, of course, I'll be here to answer. But when we talk about man creating God. So you as a spirit, you share a piece of all possibilities, right? So that's you as a version of what we can consider God. And God is just all possibilities, and you're a piece of that, aka you as an individual. You come with a one of a kind view, a one of a kind idea and feeling that combined together, that started to create what you can consider your brain and internal organs. And these things, of course, if you want to get into reproduction, you know what I'm saying, as an embryo, you create your organs first, and then the layer on top of that becomes your body, and then boom, you're birthed when all of that process is complete. So when you come into existence, it's like, bam, okay, you already developed your body. But going forward, right, that doesn't stop. You always, again, are constantly receiving new information. So as you grow up, based upon your circumstance and things like that, you go through different experiences that add to your mentality. And this is why, again, your brain is constantly developing. All these organs are living and breathing along with you, but it's you as a spirit that are controlling the direction in which these things can go. Your thoughts and feelings create they basically direct your blood flow, which becomes, again, if you have negative thoughts and feelings, this is why you can develop certain health problems based upon. And see, it happens so subtly, because you can say, well, no, a health problem happens, like, for instance, if, as an example, I got diabetes or something like that. Not me, but I'm just saying, if you're a person dealing with diabetes, or somebody with diabetes, you could look at that and say, oh, well, they had poor eating habits. But when you look at, like, what really developed that, a lot of times it stemmed from a certain space they was in mentally, that could just be based upon what's on their mind. Like, for instance, like high blood pressure and things like that. Stress and not knowing how to deal with stress leads to certain later on health issues. But even when you're thinking about mentality, as far as going back to diabetes, right, you could say, oh, well, a person, they got diabetes based upon them just eating a lot, right? They was eating a lot of sugar and stuff like that, and it developed to a problem. But when you look at why they started eating in the way that they was eating, maybe the what caused that was based upon things on their mind, mental trauma and their issues, addiction and things like that, all the things that develop into overconsumption of a certain food, that, again, they're trying to fulfill themselves through something external, and it led to a further health problem. Same thing with addiction. We could look and trace addiction back to a person, again, having certain issues, trauma, things on their mind that led them to a space to desperately search for something to soothe with to soothe themselves externally. Shout out to Joel, you damn right. We ain't alone on here. You must be lonely. That must be on your mind and shit like that. But I'm glad you here, so you could have friends or something like that. Even though I'm not your friend, but glad to have you here. But anyway, getting back to my point. So again, these things, mentality leads you to spaces in that, like when we think about what thoughts and feelings actually do, thoughts and feelings are the driving force to action. Wherever your mind is, your body follows, in the sense of what you're concentrated on is what you're going to be consciously aware of. And that conscious awareness is in tandem uh with your subconscious. You feel me? So you say, "Oh God, he ain't shit." Right? Exactly. Right? You already know. You can tell by how people come at you. It's like, man, it ain't nothing. But you know what I'm saying? So getting back into that, your conscious awareness and your subconscious awareness are in tandem. People don't realize that 98% of their problems, I'd say 100, but I don't feel comfortable saying 100%, but I'll say 98.99% of all people's issues come from what is going on in a subconscious space. You feel me? And that's the problem. People don't are not aware of what's going on subconsciously, and so they're not in control of where their conscious awareness goes. So they're out of control before they even get in the circumstance. And then when something actually happens physically, they're dealing with it. But a lot of times, by that point that it's become physical, in a lot of ways, it's too late. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't change their diet until they go back from the doctor and say, "Oh, damn, you got this or you got that." It's people every day who wake up and complain and they're in perfect health up until something really serious happens. And then all of a sudden, all those little petty things you were complaining and bitching about don't matter as much as that big ass health issue that you now are forced to worry about. And in some kind of way, that is, that's some of the, if we want to talk about things like the cosmic, like how people say, "Oh, it's a cosmic joke" and shit like that. That's part of the joke, say, even though ain't shit funny about it. But that's the irony of, what happens to spirits and body. They get spoiled and they forget that life itself is a gift, and that you got to spend time investing energy into what you want to see around you. And again, a lot of it is again caused by what we're forced to kind of go through based upon society and things like that, having to figure out different ways to accumulate, physical material wealth and things like that. And I get it, but at the same time, the blame is still on you as far as needing to take accountability for what you can control. And the number one thing that people lose control of is their own mind. And you got to really think, are you in control of your own mind? If you wake up every day and the first instinct is something to satisfy your body, well, guess what? Your body rules you. You don't rule your body. And this is a big theme during Scorpio season because, again, Scorpio is, if we look at the planetary rulers, it's Mars and Pluto. Pluto is power and control issues. Now, again, a lot of people, they externalize things first because this world is basically wired and geared for everyone to think that, oh, you got to do things in reverse. So people search externally for what they need to solve internally first. So this is how people even get into situations or circumstances that are out of their hands because they went about it the wrong way. They had the wrong starting point. And so having the wrong starting point, again, you have no choice but to lead yourself off a cliff or in the wrong direction based upon not having clarity in the beginning initial stages, because how things start is how they're ending. Now, this doesn't mean that if you start wrong, you can't adjust yourself and fix things to be able to get back on track. Because look, I'm an advocate to always say there's always, if there's a will, there's a way. That's a real saying that might seem like a cliche or might sound corny, but it's actually genuinely true. It's like if you have a will, which if we look at what will is, we can associate it with Leo energy, sun energy, is having a perspective. If you can see it, you can believe it, or you can achieve it, how they say, right? So if there's a will, and a will, it starts and stems from you paying attention to something and then applying energy action towards it, then there is a way, but you have to put in the work to make that way. And only you can make certain things work in your life. And see, a lot of times we run into situations where we might feel like stone walls, right? And when we hit blockages and things like that, that can come from energy like Saturn. So Saturn is the opposite of where the sun is, aka like Aquarius type energy, also Capricorn, right? And the opposite of Capricorn is Cancer. So we see the sun and the moon, which make up how we feel and how we act, are directly opposite to Saturn, structure, reality, and things of that nature. So by default, we're all in this kind of dichotomy between what we want and what we need versus what we have to work and do to achieve that. And again, how you react and respond to blockages and how you choose to go about certain things that present themselves as restriction or boundaries is really that is defining your character. That's why they say, like, say you're a kid who had a silver spoon and everything was handed to you. Again, like I said before, you become spoiled. And so all the lack of having to work towards something means that you have it usually most of the time leads to an individual who has a weak will. So when things are complicated or they're faced with difficulty, they don't know what to do because they haven't built the mental fortitude to go through certain things. They haven't been through shit in their life. Therefore, they don't know how to make nothing out of something, which is, again, going back to my initial point of God, you know what I'm saying? All possibilities, you being a piece of that, a spirit in a body who was meant to fulfill your own space and your own mentality with things that are encouraging your actions and movement towards what you desire, because we all have desires. So any religion or anybody who's telling you that desires are wrong, they are living in some kind of false reality, and they're probably in their own life not going nowhere, or they're trying to manipulate you to basically buy their course or something like that, so that they can give you the keys that you already have access to. You know what I'm saying? And that's why individuals like me are here to, speak our mind and remind individuals that you have that power all along. Now, of course, if you want help and consultation, I provide that as a service. But again, I'm not making dangling those keys in front of your face like you ain't got access to it. And that's why everything on my page is not a paywall. Not to say that if you have a certain gift or awareness or knowledge that you can't charge for it, because look, if you're providing value, hey, you should get paid for it. But the thing about it is, again, the world we're in, they especially like a lot of things that I refer to regarding like commercial media right nowadays, how everybody's trying to sell you something. It's about the space that the individual is in who's teaching. If they're not in a genuine space, then they're going to lead you on a wild goose chase to do something that you could have did yourself. Now, there is a market for, you know, providing that. But the thing is, it's all about intent. If a person's just trying to make money, they need to figure out better ways to go about it and ask themselves if they're really providing value. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different conversation. Now, getting back into the new moon in Scorpio and what we're, you know, for the most part, experiencing energetically, it's, again, you're faced with a choice and a decision, right? That's how it always is. And what you're being prompted to do is to put death to a previous outdated mentality, thought, and feeling, an emotional bias that you might have. And if you're an individual doing certain new moon rituals, you should consider, what are you looking to release, or what's necessary to release in order for you to get to the next step, in order for you to fulfill the need to transform and change. Because that's another thing between the spirit and the body. Human nature is resistant to change. It is not that humans are resistant to change, it's that humans like to humans, the way the body is constructed, your nervous system is wired and programmed to assess danger. And that's when your survival mode kicks in. So it's not that the fear you feel is wrong. It's simply just your body sending signals to your mind to be aware of certain things, because that is how it's wired to survive physically. Now, where things get muddy is your spirit sometimes forgets that it's the one in control. So, without proper techniques of regulation of certain things in your nervous system, you can fall victim to panic mode. And then that's like you as a spirit going on autopilot, which leads you to do very uh, quick things, right? That may seem like they're helping you survive, but they might be short sighted. When you're in panic mode in your survival, think about the mental state of being desperate. You're quick to move, but again, the faster you're moving and going here, going there, then boom, you end up running into situations that you couldn't foresee. But when your spirit is in control and you're looking at the bigger picture, you can make better decisions based upon having the right intention and having foresight. And again, that goes as low as, let's say you're on the path working towards something, right? If you're on the path working to something, and let's say you're running into a roadblock, something's in front of you that's making it hard to keep going. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about the sun in the opposition with Saturn, right? If you don't have and this is where we can start to get into things like faith, belief in yourself, faith, imagination to be creative, to see through that obstacle and come up with a decision to make in the immediate space that can, again, it's like you can't predict what's going to happen, but you can get creative on your approach to dealing with what's presented to you as a blockage. And a lot of times, the most beautiful creations come from that. Almost all inventions stem from that one problem. A person faced with a difficulty and coming up with a creative way to go about it, right? But what happens to a lot of individuals is they stop right there. They get hit with something that's difficult and they give up. And so what happens is their spirit is just going along with their body says. And so they lose. That's basically you giving your power away. In a lot of ways, giving your magic away, because we all have the potential based upon or the what I just explained, to come up with a way to go about things. But the problem is people don't, they lack faith. They lack different the foresight, the connection to spirit or the universe or whatever you want to refer to. They lack that ability to come up with something out of nothing. And the reason is because they're too lost in the physical. When you're just looking at an obstacle, and let's say you didn't have a connection to your spirit, right? Your piece of all possibilities, then guess what? You actually start to genuinely believe certain things aren't possible. So these are the people who gave up on certain things too soon. And so, and what I'm saying too, giving up on different things, I'm not saying be a fool, be foolish in the sense of if something's not working, trying to force it. But what I'm saying is having the ability to step back and observe something to come up with a new approach or to be able to assess, you know, because it gets deep. You know what I'm saying? You can if you're really looking at it, let's say you've been trying to do something for a long time and it hasn't been working. Sometimes you got to let go of a certain path towards a dream or something like that. Sometimes it takes you stepping back to figure out a whole new path that's actually suited to where you want to go. But see, that requires asking questions like, what are you really after? What do you really want in life? What are you really going towards? Because sometimes we say we want certain things, but that more so be not our one of a kind genuine idea. It'd be an idea we got based upon other people we see was successful and things like that. So, of course, that's an aspect of it. But like I said before, if there's a will, there's a way. So if you're looking to get to somewhere, it's up to you to have the patience and the persistence to figure out what needs to happen in order to get to that next step. And sometimes it's not going to look like what you predicted or what you expected. And that's what I mean by you can't predict what's going to happen, but only thing you can control is how you respond to it and the mentality you create from that. So again, going back to what I was saying about power and control and how that's Pluto and that involves Scorpio, the point of it, that power and control, is the power to change. That's what all of us have the ability to do. Change our mind, change our direction, switch up what we thought was, hey, I thought that was the way, but that might not be lucrative for me, or that might not be a good investment of my time. And so when you look at certain things, it's like you have to consider, okay, where am I going and how I'm going to approach this. But again, it's processes before that um, really come to it's really about how you are, the ability to step back and observe. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Soul Rebel up in here. Solo up in here. You know what I'm saying? With the beats. Y'all need to hit him up for the beats, man. He got some beautiful music and stuff like that. Matter of fact, we got a track that I gotta mix. I still gotta mix that shit. But going forward, so when it comes to the moon currently in Scorpio, we might have to transform certain things that we thought was our bag. We might have thought that was the way to go about it, but how we're feeling about it is might be keeping us stuck. It might be keeping us in a space where we're not being creative, free enough to develop a perspective or an approach that's again, part of will, part of our ability to go forward. Now, I've talked a lot about willpower, right? So let's back it up just so we can get clarity. When we talk about willpower, it being in opposition to Saturn, right? So when we're faced with obstacles, it's up to our will to be in a space to be able to see and assess and make an action towards something, right? But now let's talk about Scorpio, for instance, right? Now we're dealing with Mars and we're dealing with Pluto. So Mars is kind of our second in command when it comes to our ability to fight through something. You know, Mars being the planet of passion and willpower, So there's will, like the sun, but then there's willpower. So that's like the energy level or your ability to kind of access that extra oomph that'll help you fight through something, right? Because the sun itself is just directing. It's basically the general, and the general is telling the infantry or the soldier with a gun, aka Mars, to go shoot in that direction. So you need the will to see and create a way, but you need the willpower to fulfill what needs to be done to go forward with it and execute. So when you're looking at situations like currently, right, with a new moon in Scorpio, we need to figure out the link between where our willpower is and have the right perspective of where to aim that. But if we're stuck on certain emotional biases, this is where we might be distracted on what actually needs to be done to get where we need to go. And this is where the new moon aspect of it comes in, because that requires a transformation. So we have to transform something when it comes to what we might be stuck on, what we might not be able to see. And this could be, if I'm taking that analogy further, think of the general giving the soldier a request, right, or a command, because that's what it is, a command. But the soldier is stuck in his own head trying to figure out what the general's bigger picture is. So it's like kind of like an outdated mentality, or Scorpio on the negative end or on the lower octave is like stuck in a grudge. So there might be emotional blockages, right? That's making it a conflict to be able to actually go forward with your will and the full capacity that it needs to go in. Now, if you got some big goals, right? You're trying to manifest, it's a new moon. So now we're on the path of waxing. So whenever there's a waxing period, as far as where the moon goes, waxing period is where the new moon starts all the way up into the full moon. If you have some kind of emotional bias or some kind of emotional grudge, or let's say some kind of addiction, right? Something you're overindulging in based upon trying to kind of, to see one thing about Scorpio energy, it's a type of energy that could be obsessive, but the obsessive energy comes from avoidance a lot of times when it comes to Scorpio, because Scorpio is already dealing with a lot of internal battles. But when they start to become obsessive, it's because it's like an emotional, that's the emotional aspect of it. It's like trying to attach itself to something because it desperately is searching for comfort in some kind of way. It's not until a Scorpio can deal with their own internal war that they're able to actually associate themselves properly without being obsessive over something or paranoid about something, always looking over their shoulder, because they have, again, based upon trauma and what they've been through, they might have developed trust issues and not being able to feel comfortable. And whenever individuals, and that's the human part of things, again, back to survival mode, when an individual doesn't feel comfortable, that's the first thing they cling to, is like, what can they attach themselves to, or how can they manipulate a situation to be more comfortable. And so that's like what happens at the root of um any individual in survival mode. But when we talk about Scorpio energy, that's how they deal with survival mode, is let me try to sting them before they sting me. So what happens is they try to manipulate, or you know go about a situation in a very behind the scenes type way, an unseen type way. But if they're in the wrong space, they end up getting caught in that trap. They end up setting themselves up, because again, one thing with water, same thing I always say with Pisces and all water signs, their biggest problem is, because you feel a certain way, you assume others feel whatever. It's like water is constantly, you got to think about the nature of water. Water is like connected, right? Connection. So when you feel something, right, in relation to another person, a lot of times based upon water and connection, you assume that you can figure out what another person feels and thinks based upon how you feel. But you got to keep in mind, how you feel is just how you feel. Now you might say, oh, well, that's my intuition. But let's say you in a negative space, or you in muddy water and stuff like that. So anything connected to you is going to be muddied by what is contaminating your water. So there's not clarity there. There's not no real understanding. And we can't know what's in somebody else's mind until they communicate it. Now, yeah, people can lie and things like that, but it's like a matter of knowing your own space and being able to clear your own water so that you can clearly feel what you're connected to. Because if your water too muddy, aka you got too many negative thoughts and paranoid thoughts, and you're assuming this and you're assuming that, and you got past previous baggage on you, the first, it doesn't matter what a person is trying to communicate. You're always going to have that sense of whatever is in your water contaminating it. And this is what prevents people from being able to connect. Because when somebody genuine comes around, here you are trying to be strategic because you think and assume how you feel is how they feel. And again, you didn't even give them a chance to communicate and create that bridge for you to be able to cross over to connect to where their water is and the space, aka the space they're in. So this is where all water signs kind of fall short. Pisces is the most, and that's why they say Pisces be delusional, because they're mutable water. So they adapt and change. But see, and then Cancer is the initiator, right? This cardinal energy. So Cancers will assume, not assume, but cancers take a more selfish approach to it. They don't really care how you feel. They just want to feel how they want to feel. So there's a more, and not to say cancers don't care. That's not what I'm saying. So if you got cancer and you don't come from my head, because that's not what I'm saying. But cancer is more of, I feel this way and I need everyone to feel how I feel. And so their feelings come first and they're sensitive about that shit. So they start to, they kind of throw their water out. It's more of a wave. It's like they throw their water in places, right? I feel like this. And so they do that and then observe the response from everybody else. And if you don't look like you going along with their wave, that's when they become moody and start to come at you like you're a problem. And then, Pisces again is trying to go with the flow, but sometimes does that too much and assumes this is where their imagination takes them for a ride because they assume based upon how they feel, that's how everyone else feels, or if they have something on their mind, they'll let that distract them and create some kind of false reality of what's being felt. And they didn't even check in with the other space to know that they was on the same tandem. Now, when it comes to Scorpio, though, it's fixed water. So Scorpios in their own world, and based upon being in their own world, that bias or that grudge, they will again move and maneuver through a situation in a very seemingly selfish way, aka that Mars aspect. In that selfish way, a lot of times just their defense mechanism to protect themselves because of how vulnerable they feel all the time. But again, you got to understand that that vulnerability isn't necessarily something to run from. And this is kind of what we're getting at in this new moon. We have to come face to face with that vulnerability. Part of being able to move and transform and be fluid, right? In a healthy type way and develop healthy connections is to get over ourselves in that aspect, right? A lot of times Scorpios get blamed for being defensive. And the thing is, they might not even feel like, oh, I'm not defensive. But what it is it's the guard up based upon what makes them feel comfortable. And they don't feel comfortable at all. But the vulnerability in having to give trust to others or trust others with what they're feeling, because a lot of times they grew up intense. So Scorpios might come from a family that, again, they felt like every time they opened themselves up emotionally, they was put in a situation where either someone didn't understand or they used what they felt against them. So they developed a kind of like protective mechanism or defense mechanism that really is like, I should just keep these feelings to myself. And when they do that, they're at war with themselves. It's too many feelings. It's too intense. So that's why all Scorpios growing up have to find some way to release that through some kind of creative art, sport, whatever it is. Even if you got a Scorpio child, you need to, it's like if you don't find an outlet for their energy, it's two things you got to do with a Scorpio child, in my opinion, right? It's like you have to find an outlet for their energy, and you have to allow them to feel how they feel, but also be willing to, like, when they're telling you how they feel, you got to listen and you got to be open. Because what happened is you'll go through a Scorpio child will grow up and go through something, and they'll come to their parent for some kind of connection or understanding, and what they're taught through their parents' reaction, or sometimes you can't even control this. Sometimes it'd be just what they experience out in the world. But if they trust you with something early on in life and you dub them or you do something that makes it seem like you can't be trusted, they'll close themselves off from that forever in a mind, because that is how deep Scorpio really goes about that vulnerability. And they start to just want to deal with it on their own because they feel as though they can't trust. Again, it's like the stem of trust issues. They feel like they can't trust what's deep down inside and sacred to them, aka their feelings, with anybody externally. So you get a lot of Scorpios who develop that mentality and become, avoided, in the sense of they don't trust that others can keep them safe, and they think that they the only one that can keep themselves safe. So if you have Scorpio aspects, you start to understand why you even go about certain things, why you even keep secrets that don't need to be secrets. Because at some point, you become so connected to the things you hold dearly that it starts to become a thing of survival, and they're closest to survival based upon them being connected to Mars, and Mars being the root chakra planet. You know what I'm saying? So they're very much in, they're born into situations kind of similar to how we say, Capricorns grow up and have to work and have to figure out things like an adult at a very young age. Well, Scorpio's bag is they grow up feeling like they at war, and the only one they could trust to make it out that war is themselves. So they grow up having to fight invisible battles. So when people come and put pressure on them, they don't really even know how to take it. And so you get Scorpios who just move the way they move. And you might not even tell that they really going through a lot, but they know they're going through a lot, and they put that first. And so it comes off selfish, but you don't even understand what they dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you might be like, oh, they need help, and why don't they just ask for help? It's just early on they might have learned that when they ask for help or make themselves vulnerable, they get put in situations where that they are taken advantage of because of how much they opened up. And so it's that back and forth and not understanding, like, what I'm saying, kind of how to deal with that. And it's not till they get older that they learn how to release again. And hopefully they have some kind of creative medium, because if they don't, this is where they get into very taboo things to an extreme. Now, again, the positive high octave type Scorpio energy will invest their time and energy into things like psychology or trying to understand themselves and others in that manner. But again, a lot of times some of them don't make it out the dark early. You know what I'm saying? So they have to go through a bunch of either betrayals that lead them to be on some kind of extreme negative, or they experiment themselves and stumble upon maybe the wrong thing too early. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to call it, based upon them trying to find the truth of things, because that's what Scorpio energy is all about. Now, talking about the new moon and how it might apply to you, whether you got Scorpio energy or not, this is the part of the seasons in the year where we're actually trying to find the truth within ourselves. The ego has fallen. That was Libra season. That's where the sun falls. So it's like energetically, everyone is dealing with not having an ego to cling to hide things. So during the spring and summer, it's the birth of something, a new idea in Aries, and we get fixated on it and we start to communicate about it. This is where we're building our self esteem. Then the summertime is where we're shining. We're like, hey, this is me. This is how I feel. Boom, boom, boom. I'm on center stage. And then the details. And so when we get to Virgo season, that's the harvest. That's when we start to learn about ourselves and all the things we're actually flawed about. And we start to be like, damn, okay, critically thinking about our position and who we are, and how we're moving in the world. And then it gets to uh Libra season, which is the fall of the ego. This is where we start to realize, damn, I really can't do it all on my own, or the other side of what we build up to be so great. So again, that's why the transition, people don't really talk about it a lot, but going through Libra season starts to become where we get the early signs of, like, what some people start to feel depression and start to feel kind of weird about what they're involved in, because you start to realize just the reality of the fact that you can't do it on your own. See, the sun starts off in its highest point, but then by Libra season it falls. So if you haven't done enough things to create the connections and the relationships to help you and support you, because that's what Venus is. It's like support. And so, Venus is ruled by Libra. So if you didn't do things that helped you gain kind of the notoriety and help you develop the network, you might feel that fall. You might feel that, damn, I don't know if, you might lose confidence, you might be indecisive, and all these things kind of lead you down a lower octave aspect of, now we're in Scorpio, and you feel like, damn, I don't know who to trust. I can barely even trust myself, and I got all this pressure in me, and I don't know how to move forward. Again, where's my will? You're trying to find it. Now, on a higher octave end, or let's say you've been riding the wave appropriately, then you might find yourself in a situation where by Libra season, you saw, hey, damn, I actually do got people that support me. And not to say, you again, even when I say high octave, I'm not saying that everything is rainbows, butterflies, and it's all good. We go through different things on different levels, but for the most part, and this is me speaking to you directly. It's like sometimes, even though things might not be perfect or going the way you want them, you still have to find where You have to find things to be grateful for. You have to look at what you've actually done. And sometimes we're harder on ourselves. But if you really been putting effort towards this shit, you've been doing the internal work, you've been trying with the shadow work, even if it ain't perfect, find something to be grateful for and within those things. And this is something as far as where we're at energetically as well. You have to make the most out of what you do have. And so in that space, you can start to develop a certain inner fire, inner confidence. And this is where Scorpio kicks in and does the best. It's like you have to find the inner will and the deep desire and the deep passion that can help you transform what's still not there yet. And so this is kind of like working with the unseen. This is kind of this is the process of rebirth after you've put death to where we at now in the new moon, a previous mentality. So that previous mentality, that outdated mentality, is all the thoughts and feelings that you might have been grappling with that got you kind of forgetting what you started this shit for, or forgetting what Aries represented. Remember, Scorpio and Aries share Mars. This is the connection. It's like, even though the sun has fallen, what we have left is what I was talking about before, that inner fire, that deep passion, that Mars energy that comes from what's internal. And when we access that light and we access that aspect, this is where we start to get certain hints as to, oh, wait, hold on. I still got this. Wait, that's right. I started this because of whatever you had as an idea back in Aries season. This is why I started this, even though the sun ain't shining no more. It's dark, right? Metaphorically, it's dark now because the sun done fell in Libra. In the dark, this is where we talk about like darkness and light. And this kind of goes into what I was saying, even in the very beginning, talking about God being all possibilities. And when we look at stories like Genesis and things like that, we look at let there be light. This is where it counts. This is the darkness of that aspect. And where we can say, wait a minute, I do have some more willpower left. And this might be at that part of the battle where the general might be like, damn, I don't know where to go. Because think about it, it just taking this, I know I'll be dragging these allegories and metaphors forward, but if we take in that analogy I was saying about a general and a soldier, this is part of that war where the general's like, damn, I done tried this strategy, I done tried that, I don't know where to go next. And this is where that soldier can tap the general on the shoulder and say, hey, like, the things you've taught me and how you've led me, we can do this still. We can still get through this war. Look, I got my gun still, I got people behind me, you got people. You know what I'm saying? This is like the internal conversation you might benefit from having with yourself that'll help you kind of get back to that space to say, you know what, okay, this is where it gets deep. This is where we're supposed to drag something from the depths. And in that process, we're putting depth to what might have seemed like we didn't know what else to do. Because one thing you got to realize about life and the universe is always something that is presented as an opportunity to get over what you're in that might seem like a slump. There's always how they want to say a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, when we talk about light at the end of the tunnel energy, that's kind of like Sagittarius. But to get to Sagittarius, we have to break free from what's actually holding us down, which is mentalities, which is thoughts and feelings that are keeping us blocked, emotional biases, grudges, and things that we can't quite like internally, we don't want to let go of. It's not that we can't let go, we just don't want to, because even though that's the same thing that's killing us, and that might be the toxic thing, it's what's familiar to us, but it's dead. You know what I'm saying? That's like holding on to it. Again, a loved one passed away and you trying to hold on to the dead body. What's going to happen? That body's going to decay whether you want them still there or not. And that smell and that stench is going to make you sick. And so, hey, you have to bury the dead. You know what I'm saying? And again, they say let the dead bury the dead. Again, let it go completely. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking about mentalities and things that are no longer serving you, it's like that shit don't help you no way, no anyway, but it served you from the time it was alive. And that's with everything. And one of the things about life and how time is precious and life is precious in and of itself, it's like you have to understand that when things are alive, that's when you need to enjoy it. But when things are dead, you have to let that go. But the memory that you have from it and what it taught you, what it showed you, these are the things that you can carry with you, but you cannot carry that physical thing no more. So thoughts and feelings that at one previous time may have helped you survive, hey, are those same tactics necessary in this new space? or are they just keeping your space cluttered and making it almost impossible for you to develop what a newer mentality requires of you? You feel me? Shout out to Isis. You said awareness and discernment is so important for yourself. Right, exactly, at all times. And that's what it comes from, awareness, what you can see, and being able to, and again, subconscious awareness and conscious, both in tandem. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people aren't even in touch of what's going on subconsciously. So, like I said in the beginning, they're not in control of where their consciousness goes. If you don't know what's going on subconsciously, you're going to put your conscious direction in every aspect. And you're always going to find yourself in situations that lead nowhere, or lead you off a cliff, or lead to you being, again, somewhere looking like, where the fuck I end up? Where's this? Not knowing what to do, things out of your hands, out of your control. You know what I'm saying? And again, control, only thing we can control is what we ourselves. But a lot of people don't know themselves and shit like that. So again, they live very chaotic, out of control lives. And again, sometimes even the most put together people go through moments in which they forget. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand that's part of the flow of life and shit like that. It's never going to be a thing where you just 100% always on point. It's always going to be something to throw you off. But that is just another test to add to the testimony. This is another process and phase to go through to add awareness, to add more awareness. You know what I'm saying? And again, the body's response is going to be from those stressors, and it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to try to drag you into survival mode. But that's why, as a spirit in a body, you always got to remember you the one that's operating this shit. So before you let your body take you on a wild ride, and this is something that people aren't taught. So we have a whole generation now, few generations, like several generations, who don't have proper regulation tactics and things like that, don't have proper meditation practices that help them keep themselves centered. And any parent, I think that like, as far as me, as I'm starting my family and things like that, like that's one of the things, as I want to instill in children, is just like, look, we have to teach younger generations how to center themselves, and so if they can center themselves, they can start to trust themselves to make better decisions. And then as parents, you can trust them to do what kids do, go and explore, but you don't have to be, saying, kind of over their shoulder every second, being like, will they make the right decision? Will they make the right decision? It's like, at some point you do gotta let kids go and stuff like that and explore for themselves. But what you can leave them with is processes of regulation at the very start, and helping them understand who they are based upon, separating that. Again, it's almost like teaching them from a very early age, at 3 years old, like, hey, you are a spirit in a body, in the sense of, just because you feel this way doesn't mean you have to move that way. Think a little bit, what I'm saying, and not just think, but that's kind of, that's a topic that deserves its own video too. So I'd be doing it a disservice to go in fully right now about that. But y'all get a glimpse of what I'm going, and what I'm saying, and the direction I'm going in it. Um, which again, that's a lot of the things I'm trying to put together as far as just future programs and things that I want to teach. You know what I'm saying? Because this teaching stuff, but yeah, personal goals. But anyway, when it comes to so this new moon right now, we have to take the plunge into what's really causing us discomfort, and what's really like leading and motivating us. And we have to learn how to let go, and at some point either put death or go to war with certain things that might have we developed as a comfort based upon early signs of just trying to be safe. So defense mechanisms and things that made your inner child uncomfortable, because that's what that's a lot of the psychology behind what we deal with as parents. Is like, not parents, what we deal with as adults. As kids, we have no power, and so we're learning how to get power. And so that's why all kids want to be adults, because they just want power. They just want some control and say over things. But then you spend all your youth rushing to get there, and nobody really guiding you, understanding that that's what you after. They just spend their time trying to confine you and control you to this, and then you get to a point where now you're an adult, and you find yourself searching for the things that you couldn't get as a kid. But in that search, you're really just trying to understand yourself better. You know what I'm saying? So, when you are in those moments of survival mode, chances are you're reverting back to a mentality of when you was 9 years old, or 3 years old, or 6 years old, and shit like that, trying to, again, trying to protect yourself. So when you in those moments where it's like, again, you don't know where to go. You don't have the proper regulation to make a better decision. And the thing is, we gotta, even when it comes to decisions, there's not no right or wrong. Say whatever decision you make, you just gotta stand on it. But you can at least have the proper intentions behind it, and to at least lead you to where you're supposed to go. And like Isis was saying too, awareness and discernment, those things come from you having better regulation, and you having better, like, okay, wait, hold on. Where am I actually going? I know myself, and this direction I want to go. This is where I came from. Okay, I don't want to repeat that, but I can't let past determine where I'm going. It's like it's a lot of things, but the baseline thing is kind of slowing down what the survival mode wants you to do. And during this new moon, this is kind of what we're dealing with, a fresh new approach. Like, it's a fresh space that could be starting to fulfill with what's deeply connecting us to where we want to go. So this is where, again, in that releasing of the things and mentalities that's keeping us hostage, basically, emotional biases and things like that, grudges, we can start to transform our reaction to these things. And by reaction, I mean, think about how what you cling to when you feel those feelings you don't want to feel. What do you first go to? A lot of times those be the instant gratification things, addiction things, impulse things. You know what I'm saying? Every time I'm hurt, disrespected, or feel frustrated, I run right here or do this. And there's one thing, and then you can look at that thing and say, is that thing actually a good, proper method of regulating your emotions, or regulating your nervous system, or is it just a quick fix and then you're right back to feeling that same emptiness? Or is that really helping you get to that next level? Because a lot of times we're trying to get somewhere further, but we can't get further because we can't get past this thing we keep going back to, that's just not for our development. You know what I'm saying? So we keep reverting back to what feels the most comfortable, which is the reaction in the survival mode. I mean, cling to, instead of being able to be vulnerable in a new space and be naked and say, okay, I'm a handle and withstand what it feels like to be in a space and not know what to do. And in that not knowing, I'm going to develop knowing based upon, again, but faith, belief, imagination. I'm gonna develop knowing based upon trusting myself. And if this is the decision, again, instead of just sitting there contemplating if it's a good one or bad one, if I know myself, then I know where I'm going and I know my intentions. So if I set my intentions and direction in a certain space, it doesn't matter what direction I go in. I just need to make a move. A lot of times that comes down to just needing to make a move. And because, again, a lot of times we assess a certain decision based upon, will it get the result I want? But you don't really know until you go out and do it. Even something that might seem like it's not going the right way, it's like it just takes you to have enough conviction in it and keep at it and consistency with it to get to where you want to go. You know what I'm saying? And that's like everything in life. And that's why things, it seems like, oh, everything takes hard work. Because the thing is like, that's the work. The work is being able to manage yourself through a time of uncertainty, being able to fight through something that is kind of throwing you back and forth, making you say, I'm questioning this. I don't know if I should go. But it's like, at the end of the day, even if you make the wrong move is better than no move. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of keep that in mind. And that's how you keep fluid, and don't get stuck on certain things, because that's why people end up stuck in their life. It's just like they don't want to make a move. They don't want to make a wrong move. But it's like the only real wrong move is to stay stuck or to go backwards. And what makes you stuck and go backwards is reactions to fear and things like that. Fear makes you want to run and hide. And this goes into even what I be saying about Saturn being retrograde, and the whole thing about escapism. And that's the number one thing we got to be aware of, is where do we feel the need to escape, and why do we keep clinging to those things? And all that escapism is doing is putting you in previous spaces, going backwards and things like that. And again, Saturn is retrograde. Speaking of that, that's trining the moon. So this is the gift right now, to be able to assess the reality of a situation, and to be able to see, again, what is are these emotions even realistic to have in my pursuit of what I want? Is or what transformations are necessary for me to start to establish some kind of sturdy stability foundation in reality? Because in, again, the high octave aspect is you saying to yourself, okay, this needs to transform. And so I'm going to do it. The lower octave is saying, well, it's going to try to manipulate the situation in the sense where you can you think you having your cake and eating it too. You thinking, oh, well, I don't really want to transform this, but I'm going to try to manipulate my reality to make it seem like I'm going forward. So this is you kind of coming up with a lie to tell yourself to keep doing the same things you're doing. But at the same time, it's like deep down inside, you're not really making no progress. You're not really changing and transforming. You know them feelings can't come with you, but you still trying to carry them and make them work. So this becomes manipulating things. So you might become manipulative about your situations and circumstances. See, it's a trying. So you might think you're getting away with it. You might find a way to kind of lie, cheat, steal, kill, what I'm saying, but do it real slick. So where it feel like, oh, okay, I could just get in and I can still have my escapism. It's like you're developing, it's like you become a master of an illusion, basically, because that Scorpio aspect makes you go deep with it. So you start to come up with new ideas on how you can kind of finesse yourself to still be in your escapism world and make false progress and things like that. That's like the lower octave aspect of it. But at the same time, for the most part, it can be positive. It's just you have to do the more mature thing, which is make the transformation. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to get no easier until and the thing is when you start to transform in the right in the proper ways that you need to, it does actually become clearer and you feel better about it overall because you don't feel like you're constantly got to look over your shoulder and be exposed because you're moving in truth. You know what I'm saying? One thing about Scorpio is like you need to all things you do, you need to just work from the truth outward. And what that means is getting to the core of it. So let's say something is bothering you, anything, you're trying to figure out something or you're trying to come to a decision or conclusion, work from the truth outward. So you have to go within to the core of what's even driving you to do it or where it's coming from. Let's say something is you're reacting to something in a harsh way or you still dealing with doubt or negative feelings, any negative feeling really. You have to go deep to the core of it, find the truth of it, aka what is that thing you had to do to protect yourself that led you to come to the conclusion or develop some kind of emotional bias behind why you do the things you do. And as you get to that point, you're going to get into the truth and the root. And from the root, you can start to work your way outward. You can start to be like, oh, okay, if this is why I do this, and this is negative, then I need to start to heal that part of me. I need to start working with that part and transform that outdated mentality, thought, and feeling around that soft spot or that insecurity or that uncertainty so that I can develop a better method to go about where I want to go. Because see, as you start to heal those things, you start to come up with better ideas on how to, again, it's like a form of transforming and it's going to feel uncomfortable. But at the end of that transformation, you can look back and say, dang, okay, now I'm in a previous space. Again, it's like the phoenix rises from ashes. Now it's like now I'm free. And that's where we try to get at for Sagittarius. Because one of the things about Sagittarius season, we want to be mobile. We want to be free enough to move. Um, One thing good to note is also the sun is 9 degrees Scorpio. So we're going into the second deacon of Scorpio, which is going to be Pisces. So we have to be more creative. This is where we can get more creative and we can get more imaginative and we're going to have a lot more faith. This is the part in the darkness of the tunnel where we have to trust where we're going. And we can only trust where we're going if we are kind of going through those processes within to go deep enough to decipher like what is the core of this? It's like because the things that we haven't healed within ourselves is the reason why we don't trust ourselves to move forward. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. It's like, when you don't address things that are causing you to just react and move any kind of way, uh, that makes you untrustworthy. That makes it uncertain. Like, it's like because it's inconsistent. It's like you're trying to get somewhere, but if you're feeling your feelings are still in the back and forth, trying to figure out like why am I feeling this way? You start to lack trust in yourself if you're not actually getting to the root of things. Now, um, the moon is also going to be uh so it's kind of basically Mars is 29 degrees Cancer. So right now we're kind of getting a slight trine, but Mars is actually getting itself into Leo. So it's like cuspy. So this is Mars kind of waking up and about to hit the stage, or what I'm saying, prepping itself to be able to take over the main stage. So our passions are are about to be in that place where we have to shine with them. So again, moon kind of low key squaring, but kind of trining. Is like the moon can kind of send off Mars with some more positive energy based upon fixating on, it's like kind of reminding Mars again. This is like kind of an energy of reminding us what we're doing, of reminding us the direction we want to go in. And we're at that point where everything might seem dark around us, but we have to develop that inner light that's able to see further than what we might be faced with. So again, things might not be perfect right now, but we have to remind ourselves why we even went on the journey in the first place. And nobody else really is going to have that nobody might have the words to make you feel that way. It's got to come from within you, because somebody can give you all the compliments in the world, but if you don't believe you're capable of doing something, you'll never get there. You'll never access that power because you lack that willpower. So Mars got to shine. So kind of keep that in mind. It's starting off as a trine, but it's leaning into a learning process. And again, when Mars does get into Leo, we're gonna have to learn how to shine again through our Mars. We're going to have to learn how to make our passion shine, even if we're uncertain. But that certainty will come through us going kind of diving deeper within ourselves to remind ourselves what the fire is. And it's almost like throughout this new moon, just kind of keep in mind, it's going to be a constant process that you have to partake in that's putting death to things that you no longer that no longer serve you. You constantly having to remind yourself, wait a minute, that's a mentality I need to release. Wait a minute, this is something I want to release. That's basically going to be the pattern throughout this whole moon cycle. Things coming up, and you having to remind yourself, wait a minute, how I'm thinking about this, how I'm feeling about this. I'm trying to release that. I need to release that because that's not going to work. And we have to have the faith that when we release it, it'll be fulfilled with something that we actually want. We have to have the faith and believe in ourselves to be like, okay, well, even if I'm left with nothing, and nothing to cling to feel comfortable and soothe me immediately, instant gratification, I'll be good though. I'll be straight because this is where my conviction lies. This is where I believe in it. This is how I'm going. So, second deacon of the sun in Scorpio is going to be heavy themes of where your conviction is and having to go forward with it. So very uncomfortable situations of needing to be seen, but we have to show up as our real self, not show up as the ninja or try to be behind the scenes and manipulate it to where we come as an illusion. Because that's what Scorpios will do too. They'll kind of try to come and present themselves a certain way just to hide what's deeply inside them. But everything in this energy at this time is pointing towards, you have to be true inside out. So you have to come raw and you have to come vulnerable so that you can connect properly. If you don't, it's like people gonna sense something behind whatever you're presenting. So if you're trying to present the real you, it's like it's still gonna be something behind it that they can tell something's not right about this. Or the other way around, if you're trying to present something false, people gonna sense that's not really you. There's something behind that, and whatever you're trying to do might not work, or you might get away with it, but you're going to find that what it leads to is in Sagittarius season, you're going to get hit with the reality that you are still within that cage, and that cage is made up of all the emotional biases you still didn't develop a new understanding of and develop a way to break free from, or it's going to be physical to the point where people are going to catch you in those lies you told yourself. So they're going to catch you in that shit and they're going to put you in a box. And so you're not, even if you could do all you can, you could tap dance and stuff like that, but people still gonna put you in that box and be like, yeah, you're not free. I see you as who you is, and that's all you'll ever be. You know what I'm saying? It's like the uh, anything you do. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could. It's like if you get fired from a previous job, you try to get a new job, they're gonna pull up your file and be like, wait a minute, you got fired for this. Shit, it don't matter what skills is on your resume. You still not getting this job. Still not getting this opportunity. Still can't trust you with this just because that you didn't tell the truth to yourself. So you went the whole Scorpio season where you're supposed to be developing. Because see, that's what people don't understand too. Is like in Scorpio season, you're really trying to learn how to trust yourself. People will look like, oh, it's a time where everybody holding secrets. No, it's really a time you trying to tell the truth to yourself. You trying to develop, find the truth, create the truth, and well, not create it, but you're trying to find the truth within anything, everything within yourself, though, for real, for real. And if you don't find that truth, then that's when in Sagittarius season you either learning a bunch of lessons or you're free enough based upon you being truthful, you shine as the truth. You shine like, oh, okay, this person can be trusted. This person can, I can believe this person. I see belief. It's the day side of Jupiter. It's the day side of faith and imagination and belief. And so people can see, oh, I trust it. Yeah, they got the word. They got the, like a pastor and stuff like that. And in that term, say I can receive discernment from them because they are the truth. They are a walking representation of that. And I can tell based upon how they shine it. But if you've been lying to yourself all Scorpio season, let's say you've been thinking you're getting away with lying, cheating, stealing, killing, all that other stuff, then when it comes down to it, you come out of sad season and it's almost like unrecognizable. And so people can't believe you because you don't even believe yourself because you didn't develop no truth. You didn't dive for it. You didn't dig for it. When you present yourself, it's like something about it just don't make sense. Something about it just don't line up. It's that preacher on stage. You like, yeah, I think I seen them doing some shady shit the other week. I think they cheating on their wife. I think they doing weird stuff behind the scenes. I just don't know. I don't want to go to that church no more. I want to go to this one down the street. So it's that type of energy. The moon is also going to be in conjunct Jupiter. So misunderstanding how to feel about our experiences. Again, we have to develop the comfort. We have to, dive deep and transform ourselves in order to make our experiences more comfortable. So it might not all make sense yet, but start with, what you know is right, what you know needs to be released. And as you shed, you'll start to get more so to the core, and maybe that'll develop more understanding. Also, Jupiter is retrograde, so past experiences can give us insight on what it is that's causing triggers in our life that we need to explore and develop. Put death to, or develop better ways to go about. Um, the moon is going to be opposite Uranus, so feeling opposite to uniqueness. We might feel opposite to um, stability as far as our unique way of gaining it. Now, yeah, Uranus is retrograde too, so again, blockages, reality blockages. We might be looking at reality and things that have kept us blocked, and you need to start taking accountability for it. Basically, start to take accountability for what's been blocking you to be an individual when it comes to gaining your own stability and security in life, because it's like no one else to blame. Again, people are going to be starting to get into a desperate mentality. So on a negative or lower octave of this will be people starting to come up with ideas to manipulate other people's individuality for their gain. And so this is going to be, again, people running scams, people trying to figure out how they can get a quick buck off of people and stuff like that. So just be aware of that. Um, Mercury's at 28 degrees Scorpio. So we're going to get Mercury going into Sag. So again, our mental is now trying to get free. Our mentality was really into the dark and trying to figure things out, and it's currently kind of trying. And so the energy in and of itself is having the mental awareness of what's going on emotionally. So use that to your advantage. And as Mercury goes into Sag, you'll be able to see more. Now, Mercury falls in Sag, but and we'll talk more about when Mercury actually gets into Sag. But Mercury falls there, but at the same time, it's not the worst placement. It's like it could be used if you have the right morality. So it kind of is. It's like if your head is on right, this could be a good energy to be able to and see and think a little bit further than just what's around you. So you might start to think more optimistically, right? But it could be dangerous because you can overshoot, over assume, think you have more money than you have, think you have more opportunity than you really do. You can start to overthink about the potential of something rather than understand what's necessary in reality to make it work. So try not to let your mind get too ahead of yourself. It probably is going to be a retrograde soon because the Mercury can't get too far away from the sun. Um, what else? The moon is going to be. It's also the moon. New moon is sextiling Pluto. So again, opportunities to really transform, and this time be serious about it. Of course, we always say, "Oh, we're going to transform. Yeah, I'm going to change that." But this is an opportunity once again to be serious about it. And the benefit of it is by you taking the opportunity to transform, and as a result, you'll take power and control in the sense of, remember Pluto in Cap is like roles, responsibility, transforming yourself to be able to take authority and responsibility over something. Now, Pluto is going to be moving into Aquarius soon. So this is like a little last minute jolt again, these are necessary like trust. When I say these transformations is going to be the determining factor of how you're able to work and maneuver your network. So this matters, you know what I'm saying? Because after Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's going to be squaring the sun. So this is going to be you kind of coming to grips with the responsibilities of that position. And if you do well, and you move in a higher octave, and by do well, I just mean you manage the highs and lows in a way that keeps your that you keep your truth, you know, say you keep true to yourself even through the ups and downs. You know, people can still, you know, you still find ways to be, you know, to learn what you need to learn, and you keep up, you keep consistent with certain things. What'll happen is you'll develop, like, based upon the Pluto energy, the transformations are necessary to be able to have. It's almost like taking, like I've been saying, you're stepping into that role. So this is you being respected in that space based upon what you're able to kind of, you know, stabilize for yourself. So if you're going with, it's like if you don't transform with this opportunity, it's going to be harder for you to maintain that position and fulfill the responsibilities of that role, and that's going to affect how your network connects to you. Because remember, Aquarius is all about individuality, but connected, like community or organization, where you as an individual still have a very important role amongst the connection of everyone else. If you're not playing your part, then you're liable to get fired or replaced based upon you not holding up your end of the bargain or your end of the space. You know, just like in the job, if you're not, you know, when the quarterlies come around and we check and reviewing progress and we look at you as an employee and say, damn, you really not producing. Well, the smart thing of that business to do is to let your ass go. So it's that same thing as far, but this is going to be in reference to your network and your connections. So again, it might not be as cold, and you might not see it like you getting fired from a job, but again, any community you're a part of, or just people in general you're connected to, even friendships, you might not be doing your part in that connection. So this is where people might end up going ghost on you. You might not know why, but it's because, you know, energetically, esoterically, or whatever you want to say, they was looking and saying, you're not producing, you're not doing your part, you're not playing your role and position properly. So you're getting removed or put in a space where, you know, again, like being demoted, you're put into a box or shipped away, that it's like, hey, sorry, you know, it might seem cold and you might be like, why they not hitting me back? Why they not connecting with me? It's because you didn't make transformations that helped you do your responsibilities and play your role properly. So when it came time to really look at, you know, who to connect with within this network, you kind of fall last on the list. You're the last one people want to call. You're the last one people want to refer to when they're thinking about the same thing you do. Because everybody do something, right? Everybody got a role to play. But just because it's like your one of a kind energy is what makes your role important. But if you're not doing your one of a kind energy to the degree it needs to, somebody's gonna call somebody else who does something similar to you. So like a lot of people make music, but you as an artist have to figure out your one of a kind way to make music. But when someone goes to listen to music, and let's say you make rap and somebody else make rap, if you're not doing your one of a kind energy to the degree and standard that it should be, or that, you know, is respectable, guess what? They're gonna listen to the other person before they listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Or call them for a feature before they call you. It just is what it is. And you can get in your feelings about it, but again, Aquarius ain't about feelings. So you got to get over yourself. Um, you know, and yeah, that's it. That's about it. So I gotta dip out, get ready for work and all that good stuff. I hope everyone has a beautiful new moon. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the name of the game. You know, we just gotta stay focused and to again work with yourself and develop those that sturdiness that's allowing you to continue to work and have the willpower to get through whatever it might be challenging you at the moment. You know, just understand that it's temporary and that the power is in your hands, but the only thing you can control is yourself. So do the best to manage your own energy and try not to manipulate others and things like that for the sake of you feeling unfulfilled or unsafe. You know, you have to figure out how to develop your own safety. And again, with the people you are connected to on a deep level, you know, trust them, develop trust with them by trusting yourself first. You know, say trust yourself enough to know that you're connected to the right people, and then, you know, from there you can start to build, and that's how you really develop real sacred connections. Because that's another aspect of Scorpio. Is like, you know, you want to share that sacred space. You don't want to just be in your own recluse energy. But hey, if you are finding yourself alone and things like that, just know that you're not really alone. You're just in a certain phase where you have to grow and develop and let go of certain things within, that's going on within you so that you can have healthy connections rather than toxic ones. Much love, and I'll catch you on the next one.